Okay. I know that Suk was introduced, but Suk Park and I met about 4 years ago in August, and I was lucky enough to be an angel investor in his company. For those of you who don't know what DramaFever does, I think an introduction of what DramaFever does today, and then we can go back into the history and the story of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's a pleasure to be here with so many entrepreneurs and startup people and folks interested in creating new businesses. DramaFever right now is the largest licensor and distributor of Asian television content, more specifically Korean dramas and Korean movies. We're expanding our service right now to include other foreign content, including content from the UK through the BBC, as well as exclusive windows for feature films coming out of Asia. And during this time in Korea, we're hoping to establish much deeper relationships with the production companies and broadcasters to help them create more global-ready international products from the get-go.
Okay. Yeah, so if you ever have a chance to take a look, it's really an impressive product, but it wasn't always this way in the beginning. I remember the first time I visited your offices, very cramped. You were lucky, you were the founder. It was an August, hot summer day we went, so you had, I think, the desk in front of the air conditioning, right? Or you and Sung did. But early days, I saw the presentation and I saw the product, and it was hard to imagine it would turn out as successful as beyond your dreams or my dreams at least. But tell me about, or tell everyone here about what it was like in the beginning and some of the early challenges of DramaFever.
Sure. So the inception of DramaFever in 2008 started when I had been traveling a lot throughout Asia. And I could be in Kuala Lumpur, Taipei, Singapore. You turn on the television at night, and it was a Korean drama. So back in the States, with my partner, we took a look at how Korean dramas were being consumed in the U.S. And other than some of the ethnic TV channels and whatnot, we saw 3-4 dozen websites streaming every Korean drama, and every website was illegal. So we saw an opportunity there to license content directly from the broadcasters and create a legal platform where we could monetize through advertising, subscriptions. The hardest part was we didn't really have a background in video distribution. So we created a presentation on how this would work, and we went to each 방송사들 with the presentation. And basically they looked at us and they didn't understand.
Yeah.
They didn't understand why we wanted to pay for something to license it when everybody was consuming it illegally, including the people working at the broadcasters. So getting through to the content owners and being able to license directly from them took us 8 months, the better part of a year. But since then, we've established very good relationships with all the content owners.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw this, I had the same question. Like every time you meet investors, the things that were going through my head were, there's so many, this content is for free. Everyone is pirating this. And one of the things I remember noticing was that you're targeting people who weren't people who didn't have access to the language or understanding it. So the translation was one of the differentiating factors. Like, so tell me about what did you try to do in the beginning to say this is a different product, this is a better product than what's out there currently, the 20 or 30 pirated sites that were being used?
So in our first iteration of the product, it was something very, very simple. And we had about 25 titles that we had licensed from NBC. older titles, but it had some good ones in there, like Coffee Prince, Kim Samsun, and we expected, I don't know, our 50 friends from Facebook to come and check it out. But it turns out that there was a very big demand outside of the endemic Korean audience for this type of content.
Yeah.
Currently, 85% of our audience is not even Asian, let alone Korean. And I think, you know, the reason why this is, I think everybody has a lot of theories, but in a world where we have a growing population of millennials that are hyper-connected, you can't really tell them that their content offering is limited to what's available on television anymore. We have a whole group of people growing up in the States, as well as everywhere else in the world, in multicultural, multinational environments. And that feeds into the things that they look for in their content consumption. From our vantage point, we're strong believers that entertainment is a gateway to culture. And through the devices that we all have access to, the PCs, the tablets, and the smartphones, these machines of empathy now allow us to explore worlds and content and entertainment beyond our physical space. And I think that was the greatest learning in the last 6 years.
Right. And this is a product that, personally, did you like Korean dramas, or did you you just noticed that a lot of people were watching it, so it was a personal thing, you had a passion for it to share?
I'm from a slightly older generation. The dramas that I would watch were 느낌 and 마지막 승부. I mean, these are some older titles, right?
I'm right there with you.
And but even back then, when you know, I went to school in the States, but I would come home, and my mom would come in with all the DVDs, and you know, would just start watching episode after episode. I mean, binge watching was just accepted into the American language last year. Koreans have been binge watching for decades. So it was something that is already innate in us, and wasn't very foreign.
So you started with the product. You had a couple of titles. You had just enough traction. When was it that you realized you're onto something, like in terms of numbers, or when was that? You know, what happened that you can prove to the broadcasters that gave you the few titles in the beginning? Hey, there's something here. You should try to give us more. Like, tell us more about that story after the first few initial days. You know, the second or third inning of DramaFever.
So I would say a big sort of milestone happened to us at the end of 2013. We had discovered that a lot of the content that people liked on our service was driven by the actors. And there was an upcoming drama with Lee Min-ho called 산속자들 airs. And we were able to bring that title exclusively in the Americas onto DramaFever.
Was that also a planned sort of thing? You saw that Netflix was starting to make their own content instead of making it. You wanted to co-produce or get involved with the production of it.
Yeah, there was some of that. I mean, but the value of owning content exclusively for distribution was something that we've known for some time back. And what we're able to do, because we own the content for exclusively, was be able to market that title through many of our platforms, our social platforms, our marketing platforms, SEO, SEM, and really start thinking more like a media company. And that was very important for us. You know, we went from being one of the only legal distributors of dramas from a technology standpoint to really a content marketing engine where we would curate exclusive content for our audience that we would select based on what was successful in terms of viewership and consumption.
Right. At the beginning, that switch from being a distribution only to distribution and content, did the content also help with your distribution? You started in the United States first, right? And then where else have you been able to, launch your product and expand your service?
So we started in the U.S. mainly with Korean dramas, and we've been testing different titles with different countries of origin.
Right.
We've moved from Korea. We've included now Japanese, Taiwanese, and Chinese content into our offering. We've tried content from Latin America, like telenovelas and such. In next month, we're going to be launching a dedicated channel for UK content. And all of these are serialized television miniseries. Right. Now, we've also diversified in terms of genres. We've gone from scripted dramas to unscripted dramas. A couple of titles that are always top 10 are shows like Running Man, variety shows that are very popular throughout Asia. We started launching the first VOD exclusive windows for Korean feature films. Technicians that launched a few months ago with Kim Woo-bin, Gangnam Blues with Lee Min-ho, and the upcoming 20 also with Kim Woo-bin. So we're really trying to offer a whole host of content that we deem the best of international for our users.
Yeah. So in terms of not just broadening your content, but also going in terms of geography, spreading yourself, or DramaFever, in the beginning, I'm sure it was very frustrating meeting a lot of people who say, your product is just Korean content for the United States.
Yes.
And then, you slowly built out all these channels, right?
Yes.
And then, so what was this, like after the United States and Korea, when did you really launch, Chinese, or what was the pathway in terms of
so
that?
Right now, DramaFever is available. I think you're asking about the territories where we operate. We operate in North America, so US and Canada, and then throughout Latin America. Right now, we're looking into other territories for possible expansion, but every new territory, every new country presents itself a different set of risks.
Right.
Everything from how do you sell advertising, how do you localize with subtitles, and how do you receive money for subscriptions that we need to be very careful about.
So some of the things, tell us more about, there's been a lot of success with the broadening of the platform, but some of the challenges, some of the mistakes that you went through or experienced, and some of the lessons you learned in terms of going through that.
I think that the biggest challenge is being able to build a business that scales at a global level. And I think that one of the sort of mishaps that we might have had was assuming that international expansion would have been a lot easier than it actually is. And it's no secret that a lot of startups sort of fail at the minute when they decide to go global. And there needs to be a lot of thought to be put into that. Luckily, we have a lot of smart people in our team, and our exposure to that was minimal. But it really gets you thinking about, hey, what the right strategy is on a per country basis to build a scalable model, as opposed to just being, just saying, hey, we're gonna go global by flipping a switch, and now we're gonna have be everywhere.
I personally, I was very satisfying for one of the theories or theses we came up with in the beginning was, right now they might be doing Korean dramas, but a lot of you don't know that Suk's first language is actually Spanish, and then he grew up in Spain. And people are even cheering for it, cheering about it. And we thought this is possible. Very successful entrepreneurs, they always find a way, or they find more avenues to grow. So was Latin America was a success story for you guys, and getting to telenovelas, is it called? Or,
so we had some great learnings from our licensing of telenovelas.
Yeah.
The telenovela format, which usually is over 150 episodes, it's not the perfect type of content for a younger audience.
Yeah.
However, we noticed that over 25-26% of our audience is Latino.
Oh, for Korean,
for our
okay.
service
Right.
with Asian content.
Yeah.
And that got us thinking about why that would be.
Yeah.
And that initial step of getting to know your users and what they're looking for is probably one of the most important things that you can do as a startup.
Yeah.
Getting to know your users. So what we found out was a lot of the younger Latinos in the Americas already have a history of watching episodic television.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that what their parents, their grandparents watch is exactly what they want to watch online.
Episodic television, as in, a lot of shows are episodic.
The telenovelas, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So being able to present to them something that is episodic, like a Korean drama, is something that is foreign, but familiar in format.
Right.
And being able to play in that fine line between what's foreign but yet familiar has been a big win.
I see. So getting to know your users, let's talk about that more. Where did you find the strategic shift of the strategy for DramaFever change as you're discovering who your users were? Like, give us an example of where, hey, our users are saying this. We never thought this would happen like this. Yeah. We should really cater to our users.
Yeah. It's a good question. When we started marketing the product, we really focused on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, cheap marketing.
Yeah, well, they're free.
Yeah, free.
So we used YouTube to upload clips, shout-outs, highlights, trailers, best scenes, and then Facebook to build a conversation around clips, pictures, etc. And we expanded our efforts in other social media as well. But if we focus on these two, when we then looked at ways that we could spend money after we raised it into traditional marketing channels, it turns out that the social channels that we use for free, because they were free, are far better and of much higher quality of traffic to the website.
Right.
So the learning there for us was that, a strategy that we implemented because it was very accessible turned out not only to be the best sources to introduce our product and new titles to users, but it's also the right way to market or to talk to existing and potential users to DramaFever.
Right. And these are the users who also said, why don't you do an award show? And I think, was it 4 years now, right? Like, we're now trying to be the Oscars.
We've had 3 DramaFever award shows. The first one we did was strictly an online voting event. We had a little over 250,000 votes. The second one, we had over 500,000 votes, and we brought in a couple of the popular actors into New York. And then the one we did last year had over 1 million votes. It was a much bigger scale event. Doing events like this is very tough. But, we survived it, and we're looking forward to doing the next one. Yeah.
I think you have screaming fans just clawing for the attention of those actors.
Right.
This is
That's right.
Now that DramaFever has that award show, it now co-produces shows. Have you seen now your influence also help obtaining more and to see this rock rolling in terms of getting more content from the broadcasters or producers of content.
So the question that especially a lot of the entrepreneurs in this room will face is, how big is your market? Right? If we keep focusing on Asian content, how big can we make it? If we keep focusing on Korean content, how big can this be? And we're very bullish, not only on Korean content, but also Asian content in general, and to a larger scale, foreign content. So for us, what drives us now is, it's this vision of what we want DramaFever to be going forward. And that vision rests on allowing younger users to discover content that is foreign to them, that can introduce them to new worlds, new cultures, new languages, and new faces. And by doing that, by being really good at curation, sourcing, licensing, subtitling, I think we can develop a brand that resonates with young people in the media space.
But it's never been, it hasn't been easy, a lot of them. It's like some countries don't offer DramaFever today.
That's right.
And you've been trying for,
That's right.
for a long time. So why is that the case, first of all? And, is that you're still knocking on the doors of some of these governments? Give us an example of a country if you wanted to be in, but you're dealing with a government entity.
So it's at this point is a lot of the broadcasters are resistant to change. And if we were to open DramaFever, say in Southeast Asia, where we see currently rampant piracy, because there are no legal alternatives for this content. Places like Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines. I think this would have a great potential to have a positive effect in the legal distribution of Korean and other foreign content in these countries.
But that's the argument you give them, but they still haven't. They still hold the purses.
But we're hoping that in the next year and a half, we'll be able to create a case compelling enough for them to agree.
Right. So going back to this is kind of when you're young and you still have a limited amount of resources to fight the fight, the good fight. You have to make these decisions where you're going to allocate those resources. Give us an example of something where like you tried and you said, okay, well, maybe this isn't it, and you learned from that lesson, and you learned, hey, we should really do some forward thinking or strategic planning before we do something like this again. This particular situation wasn't a good outcome for us.
So I think every startup goes through their own decision-making process. For us, from the beginning, just because content acquisition is so expensive, we do a lot of testing. We test with small groups of content and see how they perform. Like I said, when we tested with these long telenovelas, the result was not what we expected. However, we discovered a lot about our audience, and we were able to fine-tune the offering by licensing content not from Latin America, but from Spain, and bringing in very modern and high-production mini-series from Spain for distribution on DramaFever was highly impactful to our audiences.
I see.
So it's an iterative process where you test, and then it helps you tweak your acquisition in a iterative process.
It's a platform, so that's a product, but you can say that each piece of content that you're releasing could be considered a product for a different market. And so there's a lot of testing. You've gotten very good at.
That's right. And we're trying to implement this type of thinking into DramaFever itself. Whereas, before you would spend 3-4 months in developing a new feature or a new extension of the product without going through a iteration process. So you could spend a lot of money and a lot of development time launching something that unfortunately nobody else really
Oh, yeah,
wants.
Right.
So being able to boil it down to the simplest minimal viable product so that people can give you feedback and then act accordingly.
All right, that's very good advice for I think these startups and entrepreneurs here. Congratulations again for your
Thank you, Eugene.
success, right? And then I think that's it for us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.